heard it, Kwena is about halfway to the union buildings. I'm sure we'll start hearing them soon. South Africa, the DA is on a mission to rescue South Africa, and this mission has never been so important.
Nasli, crime affects each and every one of us. We have a national police service that is incapable of keeping people safe. We know that people go every night without feeling safe in their own homes, in the streets, and in this entire country. Joining us to unpack this very important issue, we are joined by Regan Allen, the provincial police oversight and community safety minister, as well as advocate Glenys Breitenbach, the DA shadow minister of justice and constitutional development.
Glenys, Regan, welcome to the broadcast. So good to have you here. I'll start with you, Regan. We have an historic day today. How are you feeling being here just outside the union buildings?
I think it is very evident that today is extremely symbolic. It's symbolic for two particular reasons. That we are sending a strong message to the national government, but we are also appealing to voters that come the election, that we need to send a strong message and vote the ANC out of the national government. We have seen the successes in the Western Cape. We have made tremendous strides in that regard, but we can do so much more with a capable DA-led national government.
Absolutely. Glenys, how are you feeling?
Oh, this is so exciting. Manifesto launch is always exciting. This year it's really important. These steps that we're taking on this manifesto launch are the first steps that we're taking on the road to saving South Africa. We've seen, driving around Pretoria today, we've seen what happens when you have a government that doesn't care, that steals public funds and doesn't use it for maintenance. We see people living on the streets. We hear of children going to bed hungry, and as Loyola correctly points out, people in South Africa just don't feel safe. And there's no reason why children should be going to bed hungry, dying of hunger, and people should not feeling safe in their own homes. All of this can be changed, and it can be changed so quickly with a proper government that believes in spending the money on the stuff it's supposed to be spent on. So what we really need to think about today is who we're going to vote for and how we're going to get the crooks out of cabinet.
Glenys, just to stay with you, how will the DA improve the criminal justice system of our country?
You know, the DA has wonderful policies, Loyola, policies and procedures that we've articulated, that we've distributed, that are available for everyone to read, that will rejuvenate the stagnation at the National Prosecuting Authority. We have policies that will be geared towards increasing their independence, increasing their funding. They're perennially under-resourced. They have no access to forensic capabilities. They have no access to accounting forensic capabilities. They have a paucity of experienced staff, and let's face it, the police are a big component, and of course we have policies that will improve the police. So we'll rejuvenate the National Prosecuting Authority, we'll increase their independence, and we'll fight very hard to give them a budget that they negotiate directly with Treasury and account to Parliament and not to the Department of Justice, so that we really give them the kind of independence they need. At the same time, we are planning to introduce legislation, the Anti-Corruption Commission Bill, that will establish, apart from the NPA, a lone-standing Chapter 9 institution that will deal with grand-scale corruption and organised crime, that will take that top level of work, in confluence with the National Prosecuting Authority, and therefore freeing them up to deal with the thousands and thousands of other cases they have to deal with every day, and so that they can start working off that terrible backlog that keeps on building. So we have great plans for the criminal justice system, and that also includes the rejuvenation of the correctional services regime, where a very small percentage of the budget, the massive budget that they get, where a very small percentage thereof is spent on rehabilitation. And let's face it, they have two things they have to do. They have to incarcerate prisoners in humane conditions and rehabilitate them. They incarcerate them in the most shocking conditions at the moment, and nobody gets rehabilitated. So we will spend a lot of time and effort revamping the correctional services regime so that the budget is spent on that which it should be spent, and spend time also ensuring that people who are not rehabilitated are not let loose again on the community like is happening now.
Yeah, absolutely. Regan, why is it so important to keep communities safe, and what is the DA doing in the Western Cape?
I think it's very important, Leslie, to firstly say that safety or the lack of safety deeply prohibit how people live, work and play. It affects people on a daily basis. What we have done in the Western Cape is literally to step in and to step up. So since 2020, Leslie, with the implementation of the LEAP program, it's where the Western Cape government actually stepped in and stepped up, considering that the national that the National Police Commissioner is on record by indicating that SAPS does not have the resources to fulfill its mandate. So we've stepped up and we have placed over 1,300 LEAP officers into our priority areas. We are seeing in those particular areas that the murder rate is being reduced consistently. We are also seeing that since 2020 up until 2023, where provinces like the Eastern Cape, Gauteng and KZN have all seen double-digit increases per capita, the Western Cape actually saw a reduction of 1.4. So we are definitely in the right direction. But we have stepped in terms of also ensuring that there's rural safety units, that there's K9 units. The K9 units is one where we have seen consistently a 38% reduction in SAPS's resources in the K9 units. We have stepped in outside of our mandate. And I want to remind viewers again that we have a national government that is in control of the South African Police Service. A province will have oversight. The Premier was very adamant that our oversight must lead to better service delivery so that we can actually see meaningful change. But further to that, stepping in and stepping up so that we can ultimately ensure that an area where I'm from, in Mitchell's Plain, can be safer. An area like Kailicha, Harare, regardless of where you are from, that you will feel a little safer.
Absolutely.
Nasli, as you can see on the screen, there are thousands and thousands of people making their way right here. An exciting time, a lot of energy going on in that march. Looking forward to seeing them when they come through. Glennis, I want us to come back quickly. Our office speaks about a victim-centered approach to the criminal justice system. What does this mean to the listeners who are listening right now?
Well, Loyola, if you go to any court in South Africa, you will find people sitting in the passages waiting to be helped. Often they come 3, 4, 5, 6 times and they still don't get help. The matters just get postponed and postponed and postponed. And often they're not consulted and they're often not even told the reason why it's being postponed. They get up early in the morning, they travel a long way, spending hard-earned cash to get there in time, and then their matters are just postponed or get struck off the roll and nobody gives them any kind of explanation. There's also very little empathy with victims in the criminal justice system, which is a serious problem. And so we're introducing a witness protection bill, which will take a whole new look at how witness protection is dealt with in South Africa, how whistleblowing is dealt with in South Africa, and how victims of crime are dealt with. So offering them support, offering them trauma counseling, offering them the kind of support that they would need to understand the criminal justice system, what they can get out of the criminal justice system, what realistic aspirations are with regards to the criminal justice system, so that people are not just left sitting in corridors with no idea of what's happening to them and no control over what's happening. So we want a responsive police force that cares, a police force that cares. That doesn't turn women away from charge officers when they come to report domestic violence. That doesn't allow for women to sit in a public space and make intimate statements about rape. We want to make sure that we have a police force that cares. We want to make a responsive, a caring, flexible National Prosecuting Authority that also takes into account the different types of crime, the different kind of witnesses you have, the different kinds of interaction you can have with those witnesses, and treat them like real people on a much more individual basis. And so that's what we plan to do with that piece of legislation.
Yeah, absolutely. Regan, let's talk about the DA's call for the devolution of policing powers. Now, a lot of people may not understand what devolution means. Can you explain what it means, but also tell us why is it so important?
Nasli, we are standing in Pretoria today. We are standing 500 meters away from the union buildings. It is very clear that at a national level, policies are introduced that affects residents in Mitchell's Plain in the Western Cape, in parts of the Eastern Cape and all over our country. We are asking that policing powers must be closer to the people so that the policing needs and priorities of a particular province can be taken into account. I can confirm, Nasli, that we have seen year on year our policing needs and priorities in the Western Cape are never taken into account. When the DA becomes the national government, essentially, we would want to ensure that devolution takes place. It will be a new policing model so that we can ultimately see that skewed allocations is addressed. When I talk about skewed allocations, we are seeing in our priority areas where we have one officer for every 1,200 residents. So we would want to address that immediately, but also ensure that we can ensure that other matters are also devolved. So devolution essentially means that bringing down certain powers from a central level down to a local level like a metropolitan city or a provincial government that's capable. We have proven that the Western Cape on every metric, we outperform other provinces. This is not a political call, Nasli. It's a call that is resonating across other provinces. It's a call that resonates with our safety structures, and it's a call that ultimately makes sense. There's a quote that says, if you do the same thing over and over and over and expecting different results, it ultimately speaks to insanity. And since 1994, we've done policing the same way. We would introduce an evidence-based and a data-led approach. We will ensure that we will ultimately see that local issues are taken into account, specialized units are introduced so that we can see reductions in crime like we have seen in the Western Cape.
Yeah, 100%.
Well, Nasli, still to come, we have Master KG,
Yes, we do.
Siggy Joanne, and
Yes,
Kurt
we do.
Darren, and many more. The energy is high. Please stay with us. But Regan, before you go, one of the biggest challenges that we are seeing in our communities is gang violence. It's affecting the youth. It's affecting our communities. What will be the DA's plan to reclaim our communities from gang violence?
Thank you for this question. I want to also confirm why I'm deeply frustrated about this particular issue. The Western Cape regularly contributes to over 80% of all gang-related murders in the entire country. We have asked for the anti-gang unit to be specifically deployed in our gang hotspot areas, but to also have the capabilities and the resources. We are wanting to ensure that the law ultimately works for residents. Glenna spoke about justice that needs to be served. We have the Prevention of Organised Crime Act. It must actually be taken so that gangsters and that criminal entities and organised crime can be brought to their knees. We have seen pockets of it in the Western Cape. We are on a daily basis demanding from the South African Police Service so that the anti-gang strategy can actually be implemented, because it means nothing to a resident if we have laws, if we have processes in place, but we don't have the political will or the political expertise to a large extent from national government. So we will definitely tackle gang violence. It has deeply affected our communities, and as a party that cares, we are wanting to ensure that justice is served and that we can rid our communities, whether you are in Aldos, in Mitchells Plain, or wherever you are, that gangsterism can be beaten. And with a DA-led government, we will ultimately ensure that gangsters are ultimately behind bars where they are supposed to be.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Glynis. Thank you, Regan, for being with us today. Everybody at home, let me tell you, we are starting to see people come in here at the Union Building. So excited. We have great performances coming up. Don't miss Master KG, Siki Joanne, Kurt Darren, and so much more.